Christopher Wilder. Christopher Wilder was an Australian serial killer who was active in the United States during the early 1980s. He was also known as the Beauty Queen Killer, because he often targeted young, attractive women. Wilder was born in Sydney, Australia in 1945 and later moved to the United States. He worked as an electrical contractor and also competed in car races as a hobby. Wilder's killing spree began in February 1984 when he abducted and killed a 17-year-old girl in Florida. He went on to abduct and murder at least 9 other young women in various states across the country, often using his charm and good looks to gain their trust. The FBI eventually caught up with Wilder in New Hampshire in April 1984, and he was killed in a shootout with law enforcement. At the time of his death, he was suspected of several additional murders in Australia, but these were never officially confirmed. Christopher Wilder's life in the fast lane. Christopher Wilder was known to have lived a lavish lifestyle and had a passion for car racing, which he pursued as a hobby. He participated in several car races, including the 24-hour Le Mans race in France in 1972. Wilder also worked as an electrical contractor, and his business ventures allowed him to amass a considerable amount of wealth. He owned a fleet of luxury cars, including a Porsche, a Mercedes-Benz, and a BMW. In addition to his love for fast cars, Wilder was also known for his good looks and charm. He used these qualities to manipulate and lure young women into his trap. His victims were often aspiring models or beauty pageant contestants whom he offered opportunities in the modeling industry, only to abduct and kill them. Wilder's fast-paced lifestyle came to an end when law enforcement agencies caught up with him in 1984. He was killed in a shootout with police while trying to evade arrest. Despite his gruesome crimes, he remains a notorious figure in the annals of American criminal history. Christopher Wilder and models. Christopher Wilder often targeted young, attractive women who were aspiring models or beauty pageant contestants. He used his charm and good looks to gain their trust and offer them opportunities in the modeling industry. Once he gained their trust, he would abduct and murder them. Wilder's obsession with models and beauty pageant contestants began in the 1970s when he started to work as a photographer. He would attend beauty pageants and other modeling events to scout for potential victims. His modus operandi was to promise young women modeling jobs and then lure them into his car or van. He would then drive them to a secluded location, sexually assault them, and then kill them. Wilder's crimes spanned across several states in the United States, and he is believed to have killed at least 9 young women. His killing spree came to an end in 1984 when law enforcement agencies caught up with him, and he was killed in a shootout while trying to evade arrest. Christopher Wilder crimes. Christopher Wilder was a serial killer who was active in the early 1980s. He is known to have abducted and murdered at least 9 young women in various states across the United States. Wilder's victims were often aspiring models or beauty pageant contestants, whom he lured with the promise of modeling jobs. Once he gained their trust, he would abduct them, sexually assault them, and then kill them. He used his charm and good looks to manipulate and lure his victims. Wilder's killing spree began in February 1984 when he abducted and killed a 17-year-old girl in Florida. He went on to abduct and murder at least 8 more young women in different states across the country. Wilder's crimes came to an end in April 1984 when he was caught by law enforcement agencies in New Hampshire. He was killed in a shootout with police while trying to evade arrest. In addition to his known crimes in the United States, Wilder is also suspected of several murders in Australia, where he was born and spent much of his early life. However, these murders were never officially confirmed. Christopher Wilder modus operandi. Christopher Wilder's modus operandi involved targeting young women, usually aspiring models or beauty pageant contestants, whom he would lure with the promise of modeling jobs. He used his charm and good looks to gain their trust and manipulate them. Once Wilder had gained his victims' trust, He would abduct them, sexually assault them, and then kill them. He often used his car or van to transport his victims to secluded locations where he could carry out his crimes without being detected. Wilder was known to be a meticulous planner and often scouted locations before abducting his victims. He would sometimes keep his victims captive for several days before killing them. Wilder's crimes spanned several states in the United States and are believed to have begun in Florida in February 1984. He went on to abduct and murder at least 9 young women before he was caught by law enforcement agencies in New Hampshire in April 1984. He was killed in a shootout with police while trying to evade arrest. Despite his gruesome crimes, Wilder remains a notorious figure in the annals of American criminal history, and his modus operandi has been studied by law enforcement agencies and criminal profilers to help prevent similar crimes from occurring in the future. Christopher Wilder's victims? Christopher Wilder's known victims were young women, mostly aspiring models or beauty pageant contestants. Wilder is known to have abducted and murdered at least 9 young women in various states across the United States in 1984. Rosario Gonzalez, 21, abducted in Miami, Florida, on February 26, 1984, and found dead in Florida on March 3, 1984. Elizabeth Kenyon, 23, abducted in Miami, Florida, on March 5, 1984, and found dead in Florida on March 11, 1984. Deborah Medeiros, 17, abducted in San Bernardino, California, on March 14, 1984, and found dead in California on March 20, 1984. Tammy Lynn Leppert, 18, abducted in Rockledge, Florida, on June 6, 1983, and her remains were never found. Linda Grover, 19, abducted in Ardmore, Oklahoma, on March 22, 1984, and found dead in Texas on April 1, 1984. Suzanne Logan, 21, abducted in Santa Clarita, California, on March 25, 1984, and found dead in California on April 2, 1984. Sherry Lynn Ball, 20, abducted in Reno, Nevada, on March 31, 1984, and found dead in California on April 1, 1984. Molly Accord, 17, abducted in Torrance, California, on April 2, 1984, and found dead in California on April 13, 1984. Beth Dodge, 33, abducted in Fort Myers, Florida, on March 15, 1984, and found dead in New York on April 9, 1984. Wilder is also suspected of several other murders in Australia, where he spent much of his early life, but these were never officially confirmed. How Christopher Wilder got arrested? Christopher Wilder was arrested on April 13, 1984, in Colebrook, New Hampshire, after a 3-week-long nationwide manhunt. His arrest came after he was recognized by a gas station attendant who had seen his picture in the news and called the police. Wilder had been on the run since March 1984 when he abducted a 21-year-old college student in California and drove her across the country before releasing her. Law enforcement agencies had been on the lookout for Wilder and had issued a nationwide alert for his arrest. After being recognized by the gas station attendant, Wilder was pursued by police, and a high-speed chase ensued. Wilder crashed his car and fled on foot, but he was eventually caught and arrested. However, Wilder did not go down without a fight. He shot and wounded 2 police officers during the chase and was killed in a shootout with police. The end of Wilder's killing spree brought relief to law enforcement agencies and communities across the country who had been on edge due to his crimes. Despite his death, the legacy of the "Beauty Queen Killer" continues to be remembered and studied by criminologists and law enforcement professionals to prevent similar crimes from occurring in the future. How the Christopher Wilder case ended. The Christopher Wilder case came to an end when he was killed in a shootout with police on April 13, 1984, in Colebrook, New Hampshire. Wilder had been on the run for 3 weeks after abducting a 21-year-old college student in California and driving her across the country. After being recognized by a gas station attendant, Wilder led police on a high-speed chase, which ended in a crash. He then fled on foot and shot and wounded 2 police officers during the pursuit. Wilder was eventually cornered by police, and a shootout ensued. He was shot and killed by law enforcement officers, bringing his killing spree to an end. After his death, investigators discovered evidence linking Wilder to at least 9 murders of young women across several states in the United States. However, there is speculation that he may have been responsible for other murders that were never officially attributed to him. The Christopher Wilder case is considered one of the most notorious serial killer cases in U.S. history, and it had a profound impact on law enforcement agencies and communities across the country. It remains a subject of interest for criminologists, true crime enthusiasts, and those interested in understanding the mind and motivations of serial killers.